The dry cleaning tag had my husband's name on it. I move people for a living. When someone at our company relocates to a new city, I find their apartment, I read the lease, I schedule the movers, I make the landing soft. So when I opened that closet, I was not looking for anything. I was doing a final walkthrough, checking storage space for the file. And there it was, a charcoal suit hanging alone on the left side of the closet. I knew that suit. I knew the weight of the fabric. I knew the small silver thread along the left cuff because I had sewn it back myself 2 winters ago at our kitchen table while he complained the tailor charged too much. I turned the collar over. There was a dry cleaning tag stapled inside, small, white. It said one name, Grant Mercer. From the kitchen, a woman's voice floated in, warm and easy. "Oh, that side is my boyfriend's. He's moving the rest of his things over this weekend." I did not turn around. If I turned around, she would see my face, and I did not yet know what my face was doing. So I kept looking at the suit, and I asked her one question, in the same flat, pleasant voice I use for lease terms and parking permits. "His name is Grant, isn't it?" The kitchen went quiet. For 3 full seconds, the only sound in the apartment was the quiet hum of the ventilation system. Before I tell you how a suit with my husband's name ended up in my newest coworker's closet, let me ask you one thing. If you believe a quiet person can be pushed to the very edge and still choose dignity over destruction, subscribe and stay with me. This channel is for anyone who has ever been underestimated by the person who knew them best. Now, let me take you back 5 weeks to the day this assignment landed on my desk and looked like nothing at all. My name is Nina Cole. I am 38 years old, and I work in global mobility for a large technology company here in Chicago. Most people have never heard of the job. When the company hires someone in another city or moves a leader from one office to another, I am the one who makes it painless. I find the apartment. I read the lease so no one else has to. I schedule the movers. I have spent years learning how to solve other people's lives with a checklist. I have been married for 12 years. My husband's name is Grant Mercer. We do not share a last name, a choice we made early for reasons that felt small at the time. He is a regional finance director at the same company. We work in different buildings in different worlds. Finance and mobility do not cross paths often. Our relationship was on file with human resources, the way these things are supposed to be. But we kept quiet about it at work. Most people had no idea that the calm woman who booked their movers was married to the man who signed off on regional budgets. For 12 years, that felt like privacy, like we each had our own space to be good at our jobs. I used to think that was healthy. That Tuesday, my manager forwarded me a new file. A product director was transferring from our Toronto office to Chicago. High priority. Full relocation package. The company wanted her settled fast. Her name was Serena Hart. I opened the file, made my first checklist, and started the clock. It was the most ordinary morning of my year. Serena and I met over video first, then in person the following week. I liked her right away, which is something I have thought about a great deal since. She was 35. Confident in the way people are when they are good at their work and know it. She answered emails fast. She was easy to plan around, which in my job is the highest compliment I can give a person. On our second call, she mentioned, almost as an aside, that she was seeing someone. "It's a little complicated," she said, with a small laugh. "He's in the middle of a difficult divorce, so I'm being careful about how public we are for now." I nodded and wrote nothing down because it was not my business. In my work, you learn where the edges of a person's private life are, and you do not step over them. "Understood," I said. "We'll keep everything discreet." I had no idea I had just promised to protect the exact secret that would take my marriage apart. The requests started small. The first seemed reasonable. Serena asked if the apartment could have a private entrance from the parking garage, so she would not have to cross the main lobby every day. "I value my privacy," she said. "I have heard stranger things from executives." I adjusted my search. The second was a little odd. She wanted a second parking space, but asked that it not be assigned to any name. "Just leave it open on the paperwork," she said. "A friend will use it sometimes." The third made me pause, though I could not have told you why. She wanted the apartment within 15 minutes of a specific suburb. She named it. And it was my suburb, the one where Grant and I had lived for 9 years. I told myself it was a nice area, and plenty of people wanted to be close to it. That was true. It was also not the reason. The fourth stayed with me. She wanted a home office large enough for 2 people, 2 desks, 2 chairs. "My partner works from home sometimes," she explained. "He can't really be seen in public yet. His ex is making everything difficult." I set up an apartment for a woman and her hidden partner, and I did it with real care, because that is my job, and because I did not yet know I was building a hiding place inside my own life. Over the next 2 weeks, Serena and I spent a lot of time together, touring apartments, sitting in my car between showings, and when people wait together, they talk. She talked about her boyfriend, never his name, but she talked about him the way happy people do, in little details that slip out without meaning to. She told me he worked in finance. Half the men in this city work in finance, I told myself. She told me he refused to eat cilantro, that he picked it out of everything like a child. A lot of people hate cilantro, I told myself. She told me he only listened to jazz when he drove, because it was the one thing that slowed his brain down. I said nothing. She told me he had a small scar on his right hand near the thumb from a kitchen accident years ago. I know that scar. I was there when it happened. I drove him to get the stitches. And then one afternoon, stuck in traffic outside a building we had just seen, she smiled to herself and said the thing that stopped my breath. "He has this line he always uses," she said. "When something is ending, he says a clean exit is kinder than a long goodbye." I kept my eyes on the road. Grant said that to me the week my father died. He said it while he held my hand at the funeral. I had thought it was one of the kindest things anyone had ever said to me. Now it was a phrase he used on other people. I was already doing the thing I do best. I was building a file in my head, and the file was pointing at my husband. At home, Grant had become a man made of reasons. He was coming home late almost every night. When I asked, he had an answer ready before I finished the question. He was leading a financial restructuring. It was sensitive, confidential. He could not talk about it, not even with me. "The less you know, the safer it is for both of us if anyone ever asks," he would say. It is a calm voice, a reasonable voice. It makes you feel unreasonable for asking anything at all. One night, I made myself say her name. "I'm handling the Serena Hart relocation," I said, keeping it light. "The product director from Toronto. Do you know her?" He answered too fast. I approved her budget, he said. That's it. I've never even had a real conversation with her. He said it while looking at his phone. And in 12 years, I had learned that Grant only looks at his phone when he does not want to look at me. That same night, I went to hang up laundry and saw the gap in our closet. The charcoal suit was gone, the one he wore to things that mattered, our wedding, both of his promotions, my father's funeral. I asked him about it while I folded shirts, so my voice would have somewhere to hide. I left it at the office, he said. Early meeting. I didn't want to rush in the morning. He had never once left a suit at the office in 12 years. But I nodded, because the alternative was a question I was not ready to ask out loud. Then the numbers arrived, and numbers do not lie the way people do. A notification came through on Serena's file. Her relocation package had been increased, almost $15,000, above the standard cap for her level. These exceptions need a senior approval and a written reason. I opened the record to log it, the way I always do. The approving executive was Grant Mercer. I sat very still and read what the money was for. The exception covered a second parking space, a premium furniture package, 6 additional months of housing support, and a local pickup from a storage facility that was not listed anywhere in Serena's approved relocation plan. I read it 3 times, and slowly the shape of it came together in my mind, and it was the shape of my own hands. I had negotiated that lease. I had chosen that furniture package from the vendor list. Every invoice attached to that budget had crossed my desk, with my name in the processing field. I was building it, all of it. The apartment, the nameless parking space, the office with 2 desks. I was building the home where my husband planned to leave me and start again, and he had arranged it so that I would be the one to make it perfect. When I asked Grant about the exception, gently, as a routine question about a file, he did not even blink. She's a strategic hire, he said. The company can't afford to lose her. Sometimes you spend money to keep talent. You of all people should understand that. You of all people. He had no idea how right he was. I did not confront him. I am not a person who acts before she understands, and I did not yet understand all of it. So I did the one thing I know how to do when the ground moves under me. I scheduled a final walkthrough of the apartment, a last check before the tenant moved in. I told myself I was just doing my job. I think underneath, I already knew what was hanging in that closet. And that brings us back to the beginning, me, standing in a beautiful apartment I had built, my hand on a charcoal suit with a silver thread I had sewn myself, and a dry cleaning tag with my husband's name. His name is Grant, isn't it? I had asked. The silence stretched. Then Serena walked in, drying her hands on a towel, her face caught between confusion and the first edge of worry. Nina, she said slowly, do you know him? I turned around. I let her see my face. I took out my phone. I did not shout. I did not cry. I opened my photos and found one from our last anniversary, Grant and me, at a restaurant, his arm around my shoulders, both of us smiling, 12 years of a life in one small square. I set the phone on the counter and slid it toward her. The man moving in with you this weekend, I said, is my husband. We have been married for 12 years. We live 15 minutes from here, in the suburb you asked me to stay close to. Serena looked at the photo for a long time. Then she laughed. But it was not a real laugh. It was the sound a person makes when reality does not fit through the door of their mind. No, she said. Grant is separated. They separated almost a year ago. His wife left Chicago. He lives alone in the old house while they finish the paperwork. He told me. I have not left Chicago, I said. I slept next to him last night. I made his coffee this morning. There is no paperwork, Serena. There is no separation. There is only me and this apartment and a suite. He moved here so he could pretend his old life was already over. I watched it land on her. I watched a whole future rearrange itself behind her eyes. Whatever she had done, in that moment she was not my enemy. She was just another person Grant had lied to. We had been handed different chapters of the same lie. We did not scream at each other. People expect that part. 2 women, 1 man, a kitchen. Instead, we sat down at the table I had helped her choose, and we did something colder than a fight. We compared timelines. We did not go through his phone or read his messages. We did not need to. Between the 2 of us, we already held every piece. We only had to lay them side by side. The nights he told me he was in investor meetings were the nights he was with her. The weekends he told me he was 3 hours away. Caring for his mother were the weekends he was picking out furniture in a showroom. To me, he was a devoted husband carrying a heavy, secret project. To her, he was a heartbroken man, trapped by a cold ex-wife and endless paperwork, waiting for the day he could finally be free. He had built 2 stories and cast himself as the good man in both. I asked her quietly if she had known he was still married. She was honest. I knew he wasn't divorced yet, she said. He told me it was almost done. I told myself that was close enough. She looked at the photo again. I did not know sister was a woman still making his coffee. He told me the house was empty. That was the line between us. She had chosen a man who was not free, and she owned that. But she had made the choice inside his lie, believing the marriage was already a ghost. We did not become friends. There was no hug, no sudden sisterhood. Too much wreckage sat on that table for anything warm to grow. But we reached an understanding. 2 people looking at the same man through 2 different windows, finally seeing the whole house. And then the front door opened. He had a code to the door. Of course he did. I had set up the smart lock myself and sent the codes to the tenant. He walked in without knocking, holding a bottle of wine and a bag of takeout, ready to celebrate Serena's first night in her new home. He got 2 steps inside before he saw me. I will remember his face for the rest of my life. It was the face of a man watching 2 rivers he had worked very hard to keep apart suddenly meet in his own living room. Nina, he said, the wine bottle lowered slowly. What are you doing here? My job, I said. I set up this apartment, every part of it, including your side of the closet. For a moment, he tried denial. This isn't what it looks like. Nina, let me explain. But there was nothing to explain. The suit was in the closet. The invoices were in my system. Serena was sitting right there, holding my anniversary photo, so he changed tactics. I watched him do it in real time. Fine, he said, and his voice hardened. You want the truth? Our marriage has been dead for years. We share a house and nothing else. You care more about your files and your checklists than you ever cared about me. It is a strange thing to be called cold by the man who had been performing warmth for you every single night. I was going to tell you, he went on, when the time was right. And that budget, that is company money, Nina. Not yours, so do not act like I stole from you. That was the moment something in me went very quiet and very clear. No, I said, it is not my money, it is the company's money, which is worse for you, not better. You approved a $15,000 exception for the woman you are having an affair with. You never declared the conflict of interest, and you made me, your wife, process every invoice so that I would build the home you planned to leave me for. I saw it hit him. The exact instant he understood. This was no longer just an affair. An affair is a private wound. You can hide it, spin it, survive it. But he had used company money for personal reasons, approved a benefit for a person he was secretly involved with, and hidden a conflict of interest any compliance officer would recognize on sight. He had not just betrayed me, he had handed me the one thing that could end his career and made me the person holding it. Grant stopped being angry very quickly after that. When he understood what I was holding, his voice went soft. Nina, please. If you report this, I lose everything. My job, our savings. A scandal like this destroys both of us. Let me fix it quietly, for both of us. I could have done what he asked and buried it, and become part of the lie. I could have blown it up loudly, forwarded the invoices to half the company, and made his affair the building's favorite story, right up until someone asked why I had been reading personal files about my own husband. I did neither. I did my job instead. One last time, for me. The next morning, I went to my manager. Her name is Marisol Vega. She is 46 and she has spent her whole career learning exactly where the lines are. I did not walk in as a scorned wife. I walked in as a mobility specialist reporting a conflict of interest on a file I had been assigned. I disclosed my marriage to Grant in writing. I formally asked to be removed from the Serena Hart relocation, and I handed over every invoice and every approval record with Grant's name on it, straight to the Corporate Ethics and Compliance Office with a timestamp. Marisol read it all, then looked at me over her glasses. You understand that once this goes to compliance, it is out of everyone's hands, including yours. I know, I said. That is the point. The disclosure did two things at once. It reported Grant and it protected me. The moment I declared the conflict and stepped off the file, I stopped being a woman who might have misused her access. I became the person who found the problem and did the right thing with it. He wanted a quiet fix. I gave him a documented one. The investigation took a few weeks. I was not part of it, which was the entire point. The findings were simple. Grant had approved a financial exception while personally involved with the person receiving it. He had concealed a relationship he was required to declare. He had used relocation budget, company money, for personal purposes. And he had let his own wife process the file without knowing the truth. He was suspended first. Then he was gone. A man does not survive a paper trail with his signature on every page. Serena kept her job, but she was required to repay part of the improperly approved benefit. She also received a formal warning because Grant had told her he had personally arranged the exception, yet she never disclosed their relationship to the company. She had been lied to as thoroughly as I had. But she had also stayed quiet about something she knew, and the record reflected that. I filed for divorce. My attorney made sure I received a fair division of everything we had built together. I did not surrender what was legally mine. I simply refused to turn the settlement into another way of remaining tied to Grant. People kept waiting for me to want blood, to make his ruin my victory. But I did not want to win against Grant. I wanted my own life back, the right to decide where I lived and how and with whom. That was something I could give myself without taking it from anyone. A few months later, I moved, not into something bigger, into something smaller. A one-bedroom on the other side of the city with good light in the morning and a window that faced east. For 12 years, I had filled out relocation forms for other people. I entered their names at the top and made their landings soft. This time, I sat down with the form, and in the name field, for the first time, I wrote my own, Nina Cole. And near the bottom, at the line I had read 10,000 times, I stopped. Reason for relocation. I had typed 100 answers there for other people. New role, office transfer, company request. I sat for a moment, then I wrote 2 words. New beginning. I never imagined that the apartment I prepared for Serena would become the place that finally moved me out of a marriage built on lies. If there is one thing I want you to take from this, it is this. When the truth is heavy, you will be tempted first to explain it away and then to burn it down. You do not have to do either. You can see it clearly. Protect yourself instead of destroying someone else. And write your own name at the top of the page. Grant wanted a clean exit. In the end, I was the one who got it. Thank you for being here with me. If this story meant something to you, subscribe and stay close, because I have more of them to tell.